instructed by the DCO, and then they're going to pour the rest in the A bottle, right? A little bit of urine in the sample cup, and that will be used to test the specific gravity. So they pour in the B, then they pour in the A, right? The athlete is going to follow the instructions on the DCO. They're going to tighten that those bottles, okay? And the DCO is going to ensure that the bottles are properly fastened, they're properly tightened, okay? And then they are going to package the athlete is going to be packaging the bottles and putting it back into the doping control, into the box, into the sample collection, into the Burlington kit there. That's what they're doing there now. Okay, so they're putting it back, so they have put it in the bags, seal it, putting it back into the box.
To the presentation.
So they seal it, and this they're gonna hand over to the doping control officer. So now the little urine that I said now was left in the sample collection.
If you can't listen
the DCO, the doping control officer, is going to take the specific gravity of that urine, and for the urine to pass, the specific gravity has to be with a refractometer. The equipment we use to test the specific gravity is a refractometer, right? And it has to be at least 1.0050 or more to pass the specific gravity. If the athlete produces urine 150 mils or less, if it is more than 150 mils, then the specific gravity is going to be, the standard for the specific gravity will be 1.0030 or more to pass if the urine is over 150 mils. Okay, all of that is the standard, international standard for testing. All right, so the DCO measures the specific gravity documented on the doping control form. The DCO is going to complete the doping control form with the athlete. Within the last 3 months, they also need to jot that down on the doping control form. The athlete is going to verify and sign the doping control form. Athlete is always the last person to sign. So that's what the doping form looks like. Okay, you'll see here has the athlete name, address, the coach, the doctor, judge, the testing authority, the code will be written down. It's a urine sample number 1. The code will be written down, the specific gravity, the time seal, all of that is documented on the doping control form. Now we also do blood tests, right? And if we're doing blood tests, we have a blood collection officer that accompanies the doping control officer, the chaperone, and that blood collection officer, of course, is taking the blood, and that person is a trained phlebotomist, certified phlebotomist. Okay, so they'll be taking the blood, and the blood will be going into vacuum, so 2 little tube-like things called the vacuum, okay, and then it's gonna go into one vacuum is gonna go into A bottle, and then the other vacuum will go into a B bottle. They still gonna have the A and the B sample, and just like how the athlete tighten the bottles for the urine, it's that's gonna be done, and they're gonna go back into little bags also. But the blood is transported to the lab in a cooling box. We call that a nano-cool box, right? And there's a temperature logger, a temperature monitor in there that controls the temperature of that box. So that is shipped off to the lab for testing. All right. So if the urine is tested and comes back negative, it is okay. If there is a positive test, it's an adverse analytical finding. So it means when there's an adverse analytical finding, it means that one of the substances on this, the prohibited list 2021, is found in the athlete sample. Okay, so we have these. This is a prohibited list. You can find the prohibited list on the JADCO website. We do it here in a little pocket size, just like how you see it here, little pocket size brochure, and the athlete can take this with them wherever they go. Okay, so but you can find on the water website, on our JADCO website, the prohibited list. As I said, once you test positive, it means that some substance on the prohibited list is found in the sample, and that's how the athlete tests positive. Okay, once the athlete tests positive, JADCO will conduct an initial review to verify if a therapeutic use exception was in place, a TUE. Now, Ms. Ledford went through what the TUE is. Okay, so the TUE is it's a it's an exemption. So, say for instance, you have an illness, a legitimate medical condition, right? And you have to use one of the substances on this prohibited list. There are criteria for using that substance, but you have to use it, and you get a TUE, right? And say for instance, you get tested, and that substance comes up, and you test positive. Once you have this TUE, right, for that prohibited substance, and you're using it within the limits of that TUE, then you're okay. The results management process will not go any further. It will stop right there once you have a therapeutic use exemption for that prohibited substance or that prohibited method. Now, if you do not have a TUE in place, then we're going to continue with the doping control to review the doping control process to ensure that the standards, all the standards were followed to the T. If the initial review justifies that adverse analytical finding, the athlete will be notified in writing of the adverse analytical finding and their right to test the B sample. Now, once an athlete tests positive, it depends on the substance that is found in the sample, right? Some substances, the athlete may be suspended right away. They're under mandatory suspension. It depends on what substance is found in their system. But they can be suspended right away, right? Depending on the substance. And those are usually like for steroids, like anabolic, androgenic steroids. Okay? Now, so continuing the result management process, if the athlete the B sample analysis, and the B sample analysis of course confirms the A sample finding, we will continue to proceed with the result management process, right? The athlete will appear in front of the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel, right? That panel is appointed by the sport minister, and the panel, the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel, is responsible for any sanction that is given to the athlete. Okay, so here it goes now. Once the athlete tests positive, right, they're going to end up in front of the panel. Now, I like to explain it in terms of liken it to a court case. So just imagine. So JADCO, we are going to be like the prosecutors, right? But in anti-doping, we say we're the complainant, right? So the athlete who has tested positive, they're going to be like the defendant, like in our court case, the defendant, but they're actually in anti-doping, they're the respondent, okay? And then now you have the panel, right, which is like the jury or the judge. So we are going to present our case to the panel, and the athlete is going to present their case to the panel. And of course, the panel hears both sides, and then they will decide, punishment, sanction, if there is a sanction for that athlete. So just remember, it is not JADCO that hands down any sanction at all. It's an independent athlete is not pleased with the sanction and wants the athlete can always appeal. And it is a national level athlete, they can appeal to the anti-doping appeal tribunal, right? Or if it's an international level athlete, they can go straight to the court of arbitration court, and of course it's at the cost to the athlete. Okay. All right. So So we finish the first section of that. It allows you to use a prohibited substance or method to treat a legitimate medical condition. You do not want to exceed the dose. So, say for instance, your TUE says that you are to take a medication 3 times a day, right? So you take one tablet 3 times a day, and you will decide now, say you want more than that. You're going to take one tablet 20 times a day or 10 times a day, much more than what the therapeutic use exemption. Now that is not within the limits of the TUE. And of course, if you do that, you can still end up with an adverse analytical finding because you are not following the TUE to the T. Okay, so the lab can pick it up. The lab can pick up so that you're abusing this substance, whatever you're taking. So this is when a TUE will be granted. You will experience health problems without taking that prohibited substance or method. The substance does not change your performance, it's just to take you back to normal state of health. There are no alternative treatments, and the requirement to use a substance or method is not due to the prior use of some or method without a TUE, which was prohibited at the time. So those are the 4 criteria when a TUE will be granted. You need a TUE if you're in the registered testing pool. Pool of top level athletes, pool of highest priority athlete. You need a TUE if you're taking part in a national or international competition, if you're taking part in any event where doping control may be. Right? You have the right and responsibilities for when applying for TUE. You have the right to medical treatment. You have the right to appeal if your TUE is denied. You have the responsibility to check before you take any medication, and you have the responsibility to apply for a TUE for a prohibited substance. Okay. Now, our testing pools, Miss Ledford went through that already. We know about the RTP, with the lower testing pool, which is our upcoming athlete, and our team testing pool. We have 3 pools right now. Now, our athletes who are in these pools, they are required to submit what we call gross information to JADCO on a quarterly basis, right? And they submit add-ons. That is the system that they use, the administrative system that WADA provides for the athletes to use for them to submit their whereabouts. Now, people provide their whereabouts, or as I said, there are 4 whereabouts. Can someone tell me the screen which whereabout quarter are we in now? And when would have been the deadline for the athletes in the registered testing pool and the LTP if they have had to submit their whereabouts information? Can someone tell me? Just look at the screen in front of you.
It's not rocket science, it's right on the table.
Everybody sleeping?
March, April to June.
Hello.
All right, April 1 to June 30th, and the deadline would have been, sir?
March 15. March 15.
Raheem, what's the type of
All right, good. Okay, so now the athletes go in the registered testing pool. So we have 3 pools. RTP, as I said, RTP is the highest top level athletes. Okay, they are the ones that, for instance, if they do not provide their whereabouts information by that March 15th deadline, right, they can get what we call a filing failure, right? Once you're in the testing pool, the registered testing pool and the lower testing pool, if at the time of filing you do not bear examination, you need to put in the information to the best of your knowledge as you go along. Your whereabouts information must be accurate. complete and timely. So as I said, you don't know, you put into the best of your knowledge, you go back into the system. So this is the responsibility of an athlete in the registered testing code and also the lower testing code. They have to keep going in and they have to update their information, right? Because if they don't do that, if they don't provide, say for instance,
Are you all sleeping?
the information I was talking about, they can get a filing failure. Now, this is the information that they have to put in the adults. They have to put in their filing address, any detail of impairment, their overnight accommodation, activities, so if they're working, going to the gym, those times, those activities, for example, location, the location, and especially for athletes in the registered testing pool, they have to provide a 60-minute time slot for each day in that forthcoming quarter between 5 a.m. and 60-minute time. That's right, everything else, but they don't need to provide a 60 many times. So within the RTP, you need to provide all of this information for the wearables information. They have to provide all of this. So the RTP athlete, they can get a filing failure or they can get a missed test. Missed test first if that put in a 60-minute time slot and say they say they're going to be
on your page, or did they?
Be a job in the conference room, one Martha Avenue, between 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. They put that as their 1 hour time slot. I say, just an example, and we go there now. We come out to test the athlete, and the athlete is not in the conference room. Can't find the athlete. Athlete is not there. The athlete can get what we call a missed test. Maybe Jasper is not the best place to use. Maybe somewhere else. But I just hope you understand what I'm saying. The athlete has to be, if they're put our test at a specified location in that 1 hour time slot, they should be there. If they're not, they're liable for what we call a missed test, right? And what happens is that 3 filing failures on our missed test within a 12-month period can lead to anti-doping rule violation. Okay? All right. So there are 11 anti-doping rule violations right now. Okay. The new code, which is 2021, there was one more that was added. It was 10 before, and one more was added. Okay. So it's not only just about testing positive. There are 10 other ways you can get an anti-doping rule violation. Once you get an anti-doping rule violation, you'll end up in front of the panel, and the panel can sanction you. So if there is an adverse analytical finding, so you're tested and there's the presence of a banned substance in your system, you can get a sanction anywhere from a reprimand to 3 years. All right. Now, a new code provides for substance of abuse. So, for instance, it is positive for the different substances of abuse, or at least one of the substances of abuse, which is like cocaine, ecstasy, heroin, and tetrahydrocannabinol, which is in the cannabis or in the ganja, the THC. If you test positive for any of these substances and you can prove to the panel that it was the ingestion occurred out of competition, because these are actually banned in competition. So say for instance, you're tested in competition and these substances show up in your system, right? You can be sanctioned and prove that you did not take it in competition, but you took it out of competition and it was unrelated to sport performance. You prove that action can be 3 months, and plus it can be further reduced if you satisfactorily complete a substance of abuse treatment program approved by the ADU. who test you with results management responsibility. So that is new in the book. All right. So number 2, if you use or attempt to use banned substance or banned method, you're charged with this. You're charged with this anti-doping rule violation, and your sanction can be anywhere from a reprimand to 4 years if you're proven to be guilty of this anti-doping rule violation. If you evade, refuse, or fail to submit a sample collection, you can get a sanction anywhere from 2 to 4 years. Tampering or attempted tampering, you can get a sanction of 4 years of the banned substance or methods. Reprimand to 4 trafficking administration, sanction minimum 4 years up to lifetime. Whereabouts, which I spoke to you about before, 3 violent failure or missteps within a 12-month, sanction 1 to 2 years. Complicity or attempted complicity, sanction minimum 2 years up to lifetime. Prohibited association, I'd like to explain this in terms of, say for instance, you are training with a coach who is actually banned, who is serving a period of ineligibility, so that coach is banned. And say for instance, Jacko, you find out that you're training with this coach that is banned, or even going to a doctor who is banned from the sport, right? Then if we find out that, we do have our investigation arm on Jadco. What we do is write to the athlete and we say to the athlete to cease and desist. And if they do not do so, then they can be charged. They can end up in front of the panel and they can be sanctioned. So sanction there will be anywhere from 1 to 2 years if it can be proven. Now number 11, as I said, it's new, acts by an athlete or other person to discourage or retaliate against authority. You know who you decide say you're going to do, right? You decide that you're going to do and somebody steal, somebody catch you doping, right? And I say, I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to tell the authorities you. So that's the whistleblower there. And you know yourself now, start to try and persuade the person to not do it and discourage them on your right? And if it is reported and it's proven, right, you can get a sanction 2 years. All right, and first, we not need those to call, and that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions for myself or for Mrs. Reed Ledford? Everything is understood?
One question here. Can I hear
you? You're trying to say, turn on your mic.
Sorry, I heard you mention something about competition, that there's sometime a booth set up. Is it that it's only for national events that this will happen, or could it be requested of JADCO to be at a particular event?
Yes. All right. So some national competitions, especially competitions that so say for instance, the athlete is qualifying for a major game. So say for instance, they're trying to qualify for maybe World Championship or for Olympics. Yeah. So we will be there, of course, right? Because we have to ensure that our qualifiers are good, right? No, say for instance, if you know, say for instance, for example, if you want us to be there, then that is a different matter. That usually there's a cost. The executive director more likely speak to that, but usually there will be a cost to something like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I had another question, but I guess you touched on it. I wanted to ask what measures are put in place for athletes who who ingests ganja?
Measures?
Yeah, what if it's a banned substance, or is it partially banned?
Yeah, so the if you look on the prohibited list, trying to get my glasses here, hold on. Alright, so the cannabis falls under cannabinoids. Okay, so it is prohibited in competition. Okay, so it's not prohibited
outside of
it's not prohibited outside of competition, right? But you have to be very careful because you know that ganja can stay in the system for quite a while. So, say for instance, you decide to you're gonna smoke a whole heap today, and then in a week or in competition event, it can be highly likely that that substance will be in your system, right? So if we test you in competition and first analytical finding is going to test, you're going to be tested positive. But what happens is that the new rule now, the new code that comes in, if you can prove to the panel that you smoke the ganja out of competition, right? You know, but smoke it with the intention for it in competition, right? Then the sanction can be further reduced. Right, so there's a threshold for ganja. There's a threshold for not ganja. It is the THC, the tetrahydrocannabinol in the for it. So once the lab test and it goes over that threshold, you're going to test positive. But it is up to the athlete to prove now whether if they ingested it in competition or out of competition. Right? If the test you out of competition and the THC in your system, you're all and out of competition. It's in competition is the issue.
Okay, thank you. Oh, is there a board? Because I heard you talk about. You mean you did. Thank you. You did. There's another question. Is there? I heard you talk about band coaches and band. Is there like a list or a guideline?
Yes.
Is there a list for those?
Yes, there's a list on the Janko website and also on the Water website that gives you the persons who are banned from this right now. I don't think there's anybody on Jamaica. Alright, I'm gonna from it. On it. Just check for yourself. Okay? So you can they will give you the name of the person if you are associated with that person.
Okay, no problem.
Jean-Marc? Alright, if you're gonna ask.
Let me ask a question. Ready?
So you mentioned about when I go to form a panel and that they form an independent body. Is that
Once you come anti-doping rule violation, there are 11 anti-doping rule violations which I went through just now. Once you commit an anti-doping rule violation, you're going to go in front of the panel. It's going to be referred to the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel. And what I was explaining to you before is that it's like a court case case per se. So we are going to be presenting our case to the panel. So the panel is a judge or like a jury, and then you, the defendant, know who tentative. No, not, well, once you commit an anti-doping, it's not just about testing positive. Anyone goes 11. You will also be presenting your case in front of the panel, and then the panel know. The independent anti-doping disciplinary panel is a panel decides whether you
what I'm doing is the independent panel, right? National body or
they are appointed by the sport minister, local.
Okay, nice worker.
Yes.
And the thing that you call the chaperone, example.
Yes.
Like,
They are trained, or chaperones. They are trained by us, and we also do. We also vet them and do police checks on them, and yeah.
we get to catch properly was the thing you're talking about is the date for the like the date where the deadline is before the quarter.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So
what exactly they do between in or the date? Okay, what is done in that time of the quarter?
All right. Once you're in the registered testing pool or the lower testing pool, how you know you're in the pool? JADCO is going to write to you the athlete, and JADCO is going to say you have been selected for the registered testing pool or the lower testing pool, right? Now, you get a letter that comes from us. It's about a 10-page letter giving you all the requirements and the sections of the international standard that apply and the part of the codes that apply. So it's one big letter there. What happens thereafter? You sign to this, and then you're going to be added to the pool. But you don't necessarily have to sign. You're going to be added to the pool. Once you're added to the pool, then you have to submit the whereabouts information to us. We will train you. So it's not just about added to the pool. And so we're going to have a session with you. We're going to train you as to how to use the add-ons. As to get to talk to Adams, we're going to give you a username and a password, and you're going to put your whereabouts information. Now, once you are, it is your responsibility to file your whereabouts information on time, on or before the deadline. So there are 4 different quarters. We call them whereabouts quarters. So we have in the registered testing pool or the LTP, lower testing pool, you're supposed to submit your whereabouts, and it's usually the 15th day in the month before that. Say the quarter is January 1st to the 31st of March, your whereabouts have to be submitted by December 15th. Right? Say for instance, the quarter is April 1st, April, May, June to June 30th, right? Your whereabouts information has to be submitted by. If you don't file your whereabouts by the deadline, we're gonna be giving you reminders and so on. Don't submit it by the deadline, then you are liable for what we call a filing failure. As I said before, if you have 3 filing failures, and if you get a mistake, filing failure and or mistake, so it can be mixed, so it can be 2 filing failures, a mistake, it can be 3 filing failures, it can be 3 mistakes. In a 12-month period, you can end up with an anti-doping violation, where you have to end up the independent anti-doping disciplinary panel to answer to your charge. Hope that doping disciplinary panel to answer to your charge. Hope that explain.
If you find out, how do they become eligible to become a part of the registered testing pool?
Okay, so if you go online, there are there is a criteria there. There are criteria as to how we put persons in the registered testing pool. So you go on our website, you'll see the criteria. We have about 13, I think, or 14 criteria. So it's not just say you want to be a part of the registered testing pool. We have to choose the persons. They have to be in terms of the criteria, they have to meet the criteria before we put them actually into the registered testing pool. So it is us, it's JADCA who decides who go into the pool.
No, you remember yesterday we were talking about being good.
So like you say, oh, you want to be in the pool. No, that's not how it goes. We're the ones that we keep our first of the sport and the disciplines, and we're the ones that choose to act to put it in the pool.
So who? All right. So you guys choose who goes on onto the testing pool. How do you come up with it?
Yes, sir.
Does coach, is it that the coaches has to submit these names to you, or you are already abreast of the different competitions that are going on, and then you go and do your own poll?
Alright, as I said before, we have our criteria, and if you go online, I'm just getting into it here with you. So, okay, it depends on the athlete's sport performance history. If you go online, you can see all this medal winners from the most recent big Paralympic Games or World Championships or other major games, top ranked athletes in each discipline or weight category, additional athletes from those disciplines or weight category in the top 20 for previous or current year, athletes receiving financial assistance from the Jamaican government. And it goes on and goes on. So we are the ones that weight the athletes according to our criteria, and then we choose them to put it into the testing. So you can look online. It's 15 of them I have here.
Okay, good. Another question: Is there any MMA mixed martial arts persons on your pool?
Right.
All right. So no, right now, who spoke? Was it you who spoke to me yesterday, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah.
You're Mr. Taylor?
Yes, I am Mr. Taylor.
You're muted.
Yes, I'm Mr. Taylor.
Right. Okay. So I don't know. I want to speak to you and hear about that.
No problem. We can talk. We can talk after.
I was off here. Yeah.
We can talk after.
Yeah. Okay.
Mrs. Bassel, there's another question. Is the pool limited to professional athletes?
Because the upcoming athletes, for the lower testing pool, no, they don't necessarily have to be professional. Say upcoming athletes, person who you see might have the persons who are doing well, professional athletes. Okay. Once you're a national level athlete, you can be in the pool. Any more questions?
It's over. They give you different seasons to do different things because they say if they give you the whole year to do it.
Are we frozen?
No.
Oh no. Okay. All right. So if there are no more questions, all right. So Gladford, would you like to give the vote on?
Sharing your screen.
Alright, I'm sorry.
So thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to join us here today. I hope that you learned something from the information out of their busy schedule to join us here today. I hope that you learned something from the information that was shared. And Mr. Taylor, you have our contact information. So if you have any questions that you wish to see clarification on after, we're here to serve you. Thank you very much to you and the members of your association.
The members.
And that brings us to the end of this meeting, sir.
Thank you very much. I must say I'm much giving thanks to you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to allow us to have this day and to share some of the information that we have not had so clear in recent times, and being able to get some more exposure to much more needed information. So we definitely be doing much more of this so that athletes that are coming up with. So thank you again so much.
Thank you, sir. All the best.
And thanks.
All right, Mr. Taylor, I'm going to be calling you shortly, okay?
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so bye, everyone.
I said,
bye.
People do. The rest of them, they're just doing it to practice their.
That's it, people. And next chapter.
That's all.
So we're done now. We're not finished with the education. Stay tuned, watch this channel, keep up to date what's happening on this channel, because I'll still be giving as much information as I can give to make sure that it's as relevant as it's as relevant as it should be. Now, you. Peace.
Give me one reason why you say. It's what? Right, see? Right. What is, why would you say it?